Hey guys, what's up? My name is Anthony, and welcome to another edition of Being a Sports Talk. Now, today I want to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and Andy Dalton and kind of sum up the season, where Andy Dalton can go, and whether I think Joe Burrow could potentially be successful in this system. So, hope you guys do enjoy. And let's just begin, because I watched a lot of Andy Dalton, a little bit too much Andy Dalton. I watched around 90% of his snaps this season, and what I got to say, coming into it, I was expecting Andy Dalton to have the weakest arm, and just be awful, be like a worse version of Joe Flacco. And that's not what I saw. I saw a quarterback with poise who was kind of uninspired because they were a bad team this year. They lost their offensive lineman, Jonah Williams. They didn't have great offensive weapon talent. John Ross was out for a lot of the season. A.J. Green sat out. The wide receivers are constantly dropping balls, probably not running the right routes. And Andy Dalton was pretty frustrated. He was getting pressured every single play. Jonah Williams would have really helped that out. Bobby Hart, he took some dumb penalties this year, and there were some dumb penalties, but I got to say the Bengals were pretty buttoned up with penalties. I took a look at the stats as well. Marvin Lewis versus Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor had them not taking penalties, so he has this locker room, obviously, fighting, especially late in the season. They weren't really giving up. They did play some rough teams, though, and teams like the Ravens, the Patriots, and the Steelers just manhandled them, and Andy Dalton have a chance. I don't think they should have started Ryan Finley against the Ravens. That was an awful decision. I don't know who signed off on that, but obviously Andy Dalton wasn't inspiring that much confidence, but you can't start Finley in against the best team in the league, the best team in the past 10 years. You can't do that. And Andy Dalton, he could stretch the field downwards, but he just didn't have time. He really didn't. His wide receivers are constantly dropping balls. They had like the worst drop percentage in the entire league. It wasn't the worst, but it was up there. Andy Dalton wasn't the most accurate guy, but he put it where the wide receiver can catch it. Sometimes the wide receiver just didn't. With the Ravens this year, it all depends. Sometimes the ball's a little inaccurate. Your wide receiver catches it, the drive extends, and you keep on making plays. But they couldn't get a sustained run game, and they couldn't get a sustained pass game where it's just the guy dropped it. It's like, what are you doing? Now, Joe Burrow is used to having an offensive line that could block and that could, with the run game and can sustain drives just by running. They couldn't sustain drives just by running. They had a game against the Arizona Cardinals where in the first quarter they were like, they were running for 7-8 yards per carry, and then the other team figured them out, and all of a sudden just like they couldn't run for shit, and the offense went down the tube, and they also almost won that game. They lost by a field goal. Against bad teams, they were fairly good. They beat the Jets. They were in the game against Miami. They were in the game against the Cardinals. Now these teams weren't that good, but it's not like they got blown out every single game. They were fighting. And Zach Taylor has this locker room, which gives me confidence in the future. Bobby Hart is a bright spot on this offensive line. I think that he's a great value. $6.5 million for a right tackle. That's great. He committed some penalties. Obviously not perfect. But Bobby Hart, I never saw him get beat in the right side, mainly the left side. And Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard weren't great pass blockers. They're smaller than what you would like. But they did a pretty good job in pass blocking. But Andy Dalton was constantly under duress and needs to be put in a better situation. Now, that's pretty much all the points I want to say about Andy Dalton, I think. I'll put some points on the screen if I didn't say everything, but I think I did. Against good teams, they sucked. Against bad teams, they were competitive. That's what you want to see. So, let's mention where Andy Dalton can go, because there were two main teams that a lot of people are rumoring. They're saying, bring him to the Bears. Bring him to the Patriots. First of all, the Bears, I give that a 0.02% chance of happening, because why would you bring in a backup to Mitch Trubisky and potentially waste a fifth-round pick on him to pay him $17.5 million and they already have cap problems? That's not a good idea. I think Andy Dalton has underrated mobility. I think he can still move around. He's not like Tom Brady. He's not a statue back there. But he's not no Kyler Murray. He's not a Lamar Jackson as far as running. And what the Bears like to do is a lot of running plays. I think you just keep Chase Daniel if you're going to do that. Or bring in a guy like Marcus Mariota who wants to prove something a little bit. With Andy Dalton, it feels like it's a little dud towards the end of his career. And another thing that teams are going to look at is playoff experience. 0-4, 55 passer rating. So you're going to bring in as a bridge guy. Are you going to bring bridge guy from Trubisky? Let's see what they got. They need to squeeze all that orange from the orange, or the juice from the orange, or whatever the saying is. So, and the other team is the Patriots. What bothers me is Dante Scarnecchia retired. You have a bunch of guys that feel like they're leaving. Joe Judge, a bunch of offensive linemen who have left the past couple years. So not really much talent coming to the Patriots necessarily, besides maybe Antonio Brown. But you think he's going to want to join Andy Dalton? and you think that this whole city's going to be inspired. Yeah, we're going to bring in Andy Dalton. Maybe if they win a couple of games with Andy Dalton, then this whole team will be inspired, but I don't think it's really that sexy to bring in Andy Dalton. It may be just like a bridge guy. It could be smart. It's a higher percent chance than I thought in the beginning, but I really don't think it's going to happen. But they opened my mind to it. All this tape study opened my mind to potentially bring in Andy Dalton. Plus, you don't really have a lot of vertical guys on that team, so it's going to be pretty much the same story as the Bengals, except you have better coaching. And again, the Bengals were pretty buttoned up this year. A couple teams that I think you could join. One of them is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you have Bruce Arians, who is sick and tired of Jameis Winston. You had Andy Dalton, who had 16 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. But I think that a lot of it was just him getting pressured a lot of the time. Jameis Winston, he can't see. Andy Dalton can at least see the ball. I guess Jameis Winston can see now. But I think that Andy Dalton could be efficient in this offense. Andy Dalton, this was the worst year of his career, but he's usually fairly efficient with interceptions and things like that. He's not an Aaron Rodgers, but he has a fairly good touchdown to interception ratio every single year. He's not going to throw the ball away. And I think Bruce Arians can bring in a guy with $17.5 million he's going to cost, and then a fourth round pick. So that could be a good option for the Buccaneers. You'll be able to draft maybe a Jordan Love to back up and Andy Dalton, have that bridge situation. But ultimately, I think one of the best scenarios is him just being with the Bengals. Because at $17.5 million, you have a team that will look at Andy Dalton and be like, yeah, let's bring him in. He's free next year. Because the team is obviously probably not going to spend a draft pick to test out a backup quarterback at $17.5 million. It's not that sexy. There are better quarterbacks on the market. You'd be like, hey, Teddy Bridgewater, bring him in. He's a free agent. He has a higher upside. But Andy Dalton, time is valuable. They'd be like, you know what, Andy Dalton, a couple of Pro Bowls. He made a couple of Pro Bowls. And he had a bad last season with the Bengals. And especially if Joe Burrow plays bad, it's just like, yeah, he probably wasn't that bad this year. And let's bring him in. I think that he's not the beige water pistol. I think he's better than what people are saying. He's not a top half quarterback in the league. But then again, there are 30 quarterbacks in the league. There has to be some guys that are below average. His stock is going down, but I think that a team can look at him as a bridge quarterback. The trouble is right now, you're either paying him a lot of money and he's not successful in the playoffs, so he's either expensive bridge quarterback or a quarterback that is cheap but he can win you playoff games. So those are the two narratives right now. I think you wait a year. There are teams like Tennessee Titans, Chargers that can use him in a backup role. But I think the best choice right now, if he were to be traded, would be the Buccaneers or maybe the Tennessee Titans. Now that I'm thinking of it. Or he could just wait a year and then be on the free market and join a team like the Colts or some other team that we don't know of right now that would be looking for a quarterback to head their future. He's still pretty young. He's like 32 years old, so he's not Drew Brees. And yeah, so I think that Andy Dalton has a lot left in him. Let me know what you guys think. Does Andy Dalton have a lot left in him? How the Bengals do with Joe Burrow? Everything and anything in the comment section down below. I'm always scared to end these videos. So I'm like, did I discuss everything I wanted to? I've recorded this video like 10 or 12 different times because I feel like I didn't say everything I wanted to. Obviously, there's something I probably missed. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.